Hello and welcome back. I'm Ross from Britain's Hidden History. I'm reading another sort of extended excerpt from Wirt Sikes' extra book. Was that you sneaking in there, Arnie? Rambles and Study in Old South Wales. And we're on to it's not really a controversial subject, as you'll see, talking about Welsh women. So anyway, the response has been fantastic to the other videos. So much information. I got the books to do. I haven't had chance to fill this with images. Sorry if that disappoints you. If you're looking for that kind of video, isn't it? As tempting as it was to spend my day looking through pictures of pretty Welsh women, but there you go. That's not what this is about, okay? So there's so much in here about Welsh women. I'm going to do it in two halves, alright? Because I keep these videos down to about 10-12 minutes if I can. Just watching the timer on there now. First minute almost gone, so I better crack on. So what we're going to look at is, in this one, there's a very funny story I mentioned the other day, which I had to get in. This is the funniest chapter in the book. It's hilarious. This bloke can really write, okay? So first of all, anyway, we can look about never mind your National Health Service and all that kind of thing. Check out how well people lived in the old days, okay? So this was 1870s, really. Right, so this is chapter 8, page 210, and we're on to a study of Welsh women. Nowhere in the world have I seen so many very aged women as in Wales. The specimens of female ancientness are to be cared only to the ivied ruin themselves for picturesque interest. Among no other people are there so many well-attested cases of extraordinary longevity. October 29th, 1877, died Anne James at Pennon Farm, Llancarver near Cowbridge, aged 105, leaving two sisters in their 90s. At Lampeter, in the same month, an old dame of 99 applied for admission to the workhouse, basing her application on the fact that she, quotes, did not feel able to support herself any longer. And a wag said the Board of Guardians was not disposed to receive her on the ground that our minimum age is 106. Go into almost any rural churchyard in Welsh Wales, and you'll be struck with the advanced ages recorded on the tombstones. Except for the mounds of a few babes, there are almost no indications of young persons being buried, or even persons of middle age. Of people who died in their 90s, there will be found abundant records. In the year 1874, there were in England and Wales 69 deaths of persons who were 100 years old and upward. 53 of them were women, and almost 1/3 of the number were Welsh. The population of Wales, it must be remembered, is barely 1/20 that of all England. The oldest of these centenarians were 6 widows, each of whom was 104 years old, and all of them were Welsh women. The best of it is that these antique dames are a wonderfully sprightly race. Many of them, it is worth noting, preserve their matrimonial inclinations to a surprisingly advanced age, along with their teeth and eyes practically unimpaired. A man named Jones committed suicide at T Pwdwr, near Cardiff, December 4th, 1877, by jumping into a deep pool, and at the inquest it came out that he was about to be married to an old woman past 70, popularly known as Betsy Girl, who had jilted him in a fit of coquetry and broken his heart so that he went off and drowned himself. The wealthy widow Hughes, who lived at Sketty, Glamorganshire, and was 80 years of age, was in August 1877 married to W. Phillips, landlord of the Three Salmons Inn, Carmarthen, then aged 50. But a still stranger case is that of a Talgarth pair who were married at Hay in 1879, the bride being past 70 and the groom a youth of 29. One may not greatly admire marriages of this sort, but it is impossible not to wonder at the Cleopatran variety of the women who make them possible. Oh, mention of Cleopatra, thank you for all the entries to the caption contest. Still running a few more days, much appreciated. Hilarious. I've been laughing so much. And I've lost my place. Right, okay, so when we talk about... now this is another thing interesting about here, is the way in which the language is preserved. and the way it can be observed through this. So it says, it is held that the Welsh language is today in its radical elements just what it was 1,000 years before Christ came. 1000 BC. Something we get ridiculed for saying today. And it may be said of the population of Wales that, considering the proximity of the most powerful and all-prevailing race on earth, the Anglo-Saxon, the changes it has undergone in the lapse of ages are wonderfully small. There are parishes in Pembrokeshire which lie side by side, and it goes on about the French and the Germans, all these people moving in, but they still speak Welsh, and bizarrely, the people one side of a village won't speak the same as the other side. They can understand each other, but the dialects are different. In Old Cambrian magazine, I read that when a man of Gower, a small district of Glamorganshire, where I used to live, is asked the residence of one in Llangyfelach, which is on the Welsh side of the line, it is a common reply, I dunno know, I live somewhere in the Welshery, as if he had spoken of the piggery and the rookery. So then he goes through the book, goes through different types. Yeah, one interesting thing on here I hadn't heard of before is giantesses in Carmarthenshire. Strong, it doesn't mean it's in a bad derogatory way, so there's big strong women in Carmarthenshire. So if anyone knows about that, please let me know. How are we doing? Right, okay. I'm glad, still got some time, because it mentions that various invaders and that, they didn't tend to bring their own women, but mostly importantly is to do with the Norman conquest isn't the right word for Wales. So the thing was that while you had the Battle of Hastings, or Battle, whatever, at 1066, and the the throne was taken, and there was the coronation in Westminster. All right, it took a long time to take the rest of the country, far more complicated than we're led to believe. The situation in Wales was completely different, because you had small kingdoms dotted about, and you didn't have such a hierarchical structure. It was much flatter. It's almost a first among equal situation rather than some supreme king. And if he died, everyone was just going to keel over. So as you'll see here, the way the Normans dealt with that, not necessarily everyone's aware of this. So at last the Normans came, and the number of Welsh heiresses they have married, they and their descendants these 700 years, is simply uncountable. The Norman Conquest did not reach Wales until 34 years after it had subdued English territory, and even then it covered but a corner of the Principality. We're led to believe the Wales just run over by the Normans in no time, but they only ever got a small part. So gradually the Norman sway was extended among the Welsh, and in this extension matrimony was an active agent. As the old saying goes, they conquered the English and married the Welsh, okay? In wedding a Cymraes, which is a Welshwoman, a Norman baron fancied himself obtaining a species of claim on the regard of the Welsh men. Anyhow, he thus acquired peaceful possession of her estates. Many a Welsh lordship was quietly absorbed in this manner, a better manner than getting it by the sword, which involved holding it by the sword after it was got, and this, as it happened, could not always be done. The marryings of Norman nobles with Welsh princesses and ladies were sometimes paralleled by unions between Norman dames and Welsh princes and chieftains. This was especially common in the century previous to the fall of Llywelyn the Great and the final extinction of Welsh independence. The English kings, too, became jealous of the Norman barons in Wales, especially the lords of Glamorgan, and would not help them in their struggles with the Welsh. The result was something like a coalition between Welsh and Norman families, which after Llywelyn's fall grew so pronounced that Owain Glyndŵr profited by when he set up his standard against Henry IV. There is no doubt that Glendower was greatly assisted by the Norman lords of Glamorgan, who pretended to the English king that they could not help it. The total disappearance in Wales of the ancient Norman families is a circumstance of interest. And it talks about, why are there no more Mortimers, Tybalts, De Veres and the like. The Welsh love to think, those of them who are especially democratic in their views, that time thus takes its revenge on the marauders who robbed the people of their estates 700 years ago. But this law of evanishment is not confined to Norman lords. And he goes through some of the English ones. All these old names have disappeared. Plantagenets and Mortimers and people like that. And he also notices there's a Thomas Tudor labourer was drunk and obstreperous in a railway carriage yesterday. The Tudors were not Norman, but they were pure-blooded Welshmen. But the grand and knightly Norman families who ages ago ruled in Glamorganshire, the De Bruys, I'm never quite sure how to say that, the Londres, the Humphreyvilles, Bonnevilles, Fitzhammonds declares, live only in the annals of old time and in storm-battered effigies in ancient tombs. Their very names are heard no more, except in poetry and romance. So there's a bit more to say on this one. That's just 10 minutes gone there. And just remind you, Wirt Sikes, a copy of this old book. It really is fascinating. And I was going to finish this book this week and then get on to next week. Maybe do some Wilson and Blackett. Or I've got goblins. I want to get into Tolkien, what that's all about. How he gets his ideas, nearly all stolen from Welsh history, and what goblin means in Welsh and elf means. And did open an old book. Every time I open a book that's written about... I might do that one first, because this was actually written by the same author, Wirt Sikes. And thank you very much. Sorry, someone saw the video the other day. I mentioned that book and put it on our forum. So please remember, we do have BritainsHiddenHistory, one word, BritainsHiddenHistory, for the forum and a Facebook group and all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to do more of this before Sunday. Thank you for all the contributions, all the captions, all the other stuff. I don't know how Sunday's show is just going to be bursting out with information. I don't know how we're going to do it all. And it's going to be great, though. So hopefully make it for the live... Sorry about itchy ear. It's not some secret signal. And Sunday's show, 8 o'clock live UK time. So until the next time, peace to you. Heddwch.